What's up, fam? It's your boy Craig, man. And look, I'm here again with my fundamental analysis on Airbnb. And I think you want to stick around for this, man, because I got some great points to make and you're going to want to hear me out. So before we get into the video, you know I definitely need you to subscribe to the channel. I need you to hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time I drop hot content like this. Now, my 3 points that I'm going to get into today when it comes to Airbnb is my bull thesis, my bear thesis, and we're also going to talk about, am I buying or am I selling this stock anytime soon? And look, stick around, because what you may think might be my answer may not be my answer, and you might want to look forward to this one. So look, check it out. Let's get directly into my bear case first. Let's start with the bad news when it comes to this stock. But before we do that, look, the stock is currently trading at $174. It has a market cap of over $100 billion, and according to Yahoo Finance, analyst expectations for growth in 2021 is almost 40% for Airbnb. And then they also have an expectation for growth in 2022 of 35%. So look, I think that a company like this that's traded directly on the open market, that came from an IPO, that's already valued at over $100 billion, has a lot of room to go. And it may even have to decline in the short term for it to get where it needs to go, because there may be a lot of pain that comes with Airbnb. But we're going to talk about those things and why I may consider where that pain may be. But before I get into more of this about this stock, let's talk about what Tip ranks this, the consensus analyst reports for Airbnb at. They rank it a moderate buy. And you'll see that the price targets that's coming in on Airbnb is as the low of 103, an average price of 183, and a high of 240. So let's get directly into my bear case from here. So when you talk about what is going on with Airbnb, you have to think about it from an aspect of when a company is being very disruptive in the market and people are not used to it, and hotels don't understand what's going on with a company like this, that you have to consider regulatory risk, because cities and municipalities do not want to be losing out on the cheddar just as much as Airbnb is bringing in the cheddar. So when you think about it from that angle and you think about what's going on in the market, and when you got the whole stranglehold on the market in a way that people have not seen before, you have to deal with the regulatory risk of it. So Airbnb even talks about this in their 10K filing, where they talk about they had to deal with more litigation and more disputes in a lot of cities because of the fact that companies and businesses and even the cities are not in a financial situation to understand how Airbnb is making all this money. So that may adversely affect their business and their financial business model going forward in the near future if they can't get a hold of it. Because you have to understand the risk of this is that they can pull the rug out of Airbnb at any time they want to by just writing new laws into order. And then Airbnb has to challenge all these litigation matters in the court and hope they win them. So let's get into my second bearish thesis when it comes to Airbnb, and that's the recent IPO itself. See, Airbnb came out on the open market valued at over $50 billion, and they'll double essentially overnight as it came out on the pre-market, when it came out on the market. So what happened with Airbnb is now that it's a $100 billion valuation on this company, that it's giving a lot of investors pause to think that they might not see tremendous upside in a company like this. See, going from 50 billion to 1 trillion is one thing, but going from 100 billion to 1 trillion is only give you 10 times the term so that you can actually grow your money. So a lot of people are going to look at that in a different aspect and a different light and think that, man, maybe I missed the train on this already. And that's fair to assume and understand that it can be a possibility. But let's talk about the third one as well. And the third one is, how do you identify this stock? Do you identify it as a tech stock, travel stock, or even a recovery play? And either way, Airbnb is actually being traded sideways due to all these matters that's going on in the market when it comes to the treasury yields and everything else that we could talk about. But it's difficult to place a PE ratio that's on this stock that's reasonable, because if you look at Booking Holdings, currently trading at 1,800 times earnings that they just released for the year, that's crazy to me in the last trailing 12 months. So we don't reasonably know where we can actually place a reasonable price to earnings ratio on Airbnb. Now, yeah, it is still a high growth company that's still growing in a matter of ways, but we still need to figure out where we're going next with Airbnb. Now, my bull case for Airbnb, and the first point I have to make on this, is that I think travel is going to explode. CEO Brian Chesky of Airbnb said in the Q4 2020 earnings call that some people are taking longer term stays, 1 or 2 months at a time with Airbnb. Matter of fact, people are taking extended 3-4 day weekends, like many weekends in a row, because they don't have to be physically in the office. I think this is actually true and very accurate. Now that we're in the age where Zoom has become a verb, you can understand that this could be a big catalyst for Airbnb. You combine that with vaccinations and you will see that Airbnb could be actually, well, a lot of people are deciding to travel, and because they're one, traveling locally, and two, they want to have access to a kitchen, and it's actually convenient. And it's a lot of things that Airbnb provides that a hotel can't. And a lot of people want to live remotely in the areas. They want to live very locally on the terrain versus actually being sitting up in a hotel somewhere. And remote work will be a huge catalyst going forward for this company if they keep on taking advantage of it, and we're living in a new society that we're living in. Now, let's talk about this survey that Airbnb recently conducted. They recently conducted a survey where people have decided to tell Airbnb, don't know why, that they are missing travel the most of any home activity. Here's why I say that. Because if you tell Airbnb that you're missing restaurants, that you're missing sporting events, that you're missing concerts, they're going to raise the price, people, on what you're doing for average selling price. So you got to understand that average selling price is probably going to go up here in the near future because now Airbnb has all this information. So surveys, bad. Surveys did the opposite answer of what they want to hear, right? But look, most respondents were saying that they are going to want to get back to traveling and make those reconnection with family members and friends that they've had before. And as a matter of fact, a lot of them have already booked their travel or plan to book their travel soon in 2021. Now, this is actually exponential for Airbnb. And maybe this is where the analysts are getting that 40% growth in 2021. But I think actually this is a biased opinion by Airbnb when they bring out this survey and tell you the results of it. Now, let's look at another company in the same sector, travel, and see what they have to say about it too. Trivago, matter of fact, released a new article that I'll link down below in the description on February 17, 2021, where they talked about what everybody else respondents of 2,000 people in the survey talked about how they would give anything up for travel. Matter of fact, the title of the article is called "Consumers Say They'll Give Up Their Savings, Their Job, and Their Sex Life to Travel Again." Like I said, I'll leave that link down below. So out of these 2,000 respondents, mostly in the US and in the United Kingdom, both are very major operating areas for Airbnb, said that, hey, basically the majority of them thought that they would give up anything else for travel, but they felt the most excited thinking about traveling for the first time since the pandemic. Matter of fact, in the United States, the most people gave the responses of yes to this and feeling excited was 56%. And even in the UK, they gave a 54% grade on people responding to this as well. Now, to me, Trivago had also needs this information as well. So this is great information for the travel sector, that they're now going to start upticking the average selling price slowly but generously until all this money starts flowing into the economy again. And matter of fact, even in that Trivago article, they basically said that, hey, 2/3 of people have already booked their travel or plan to book their travel. Pretty much essentially what Airbnb had already said too. But let's take away of all of that. Let's look at another thesis on this, right? If you look at the TSA pre-check travel numbers, right? You'll see that the TSA checkpoint numbers basically show since March 11th that over 1 million people have been checking into the airport each and every day since March 11th of this month. Now, to me, we're not back at the height of where we was before when it came to travel prior to the pandemic. But this does show that the airlines are trending in the right direction. So Airbnb may be the very big beneficiary of all of this. So maybe it is time to take it into consideration that Airbnb and other travel companies may be on a recovery as we starting to see the upswing in actually TSA checkpoint numbers. So let's start with my price predictions here, baby. Look, I want to talk about it in a key sense of that. I understand why the analysts get their 35% growth rate from in 2021 at least, even though they expect 40. But I'm going to use the base case of 35% for the rest of my projections when I talk about Airbnb for my fundamental analysis. So let's get directly into how I feel about it, right? Now, we've already talked about how Trivago, how Airbnb, and how the TSA pre-check numbers have all shown that there's a pent-up demand for travel. And this leads me to where I believe that travel is going to explode, not in 2021, but I think that it's going to blow up in 2022 and it's going to lead its way down into 2023, still blowing up because people are tired of being pent up in the house and living under one roof with everybody. I mean, whoever you talk to, the first thing that come out of their mouth, I'm pretty sure in everyday conversation, is that they want to travel. So with travel being such an explosive thing in 2022 and 2023, I have high growth numbers that's going to come in. Matter of fact, in 2022 and in 2023, I have Airbnb bringing in 40% growth year over year for revenue. Now, 35% will be the base case in 2021. So just make sure that you're understanding where I'm coming from here. So let's go back through this again. 2021, I expect Airbnb to grow revenue by 35%. 2022, I expect to see 40% growth in revenue. And in 2023, I expect to see even another 40% clip in revenue for Airbnb. Matter of fact, I have Airbnb turning a profit in 2023. See, I expect Airbnb to actually bring an earnings per share of 25 cents on 161 million in net profit, excuse me. Now that gives them a forward PE of 990 times earnings, with about revenue being in line with about $9 billion. Am I crazy? Some people will tell you that I am, especially when you look at where I'm projecting these numbers to go. And that's understandable. But during a recent earnings call that they did for Airbnb, the CFO of Airbnb stated themselves, not me, I didn't make this up on my own, they expect to achieve 30% EBITDA, that's earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation and amortization. On margin, at least 30% margin on EBITDA at the minimum. And they expect for that to get greater as the years progress. Now, that calls for cost of payments, community structure expenses, and infrastructure expenses that they said that they was looking to minimize totally out of the business altogether. Now, this allows them to accelerate their path for margins, like on the long-term side of it. Anyway, so let's talk about what my EBITDA projections are for when it comes to Airbnb. Now, we're talking about adjusted EBITDA here, so we're going to be talking about my adjusted EBITDA margin. And let's start with 2023, since I already told you they'll be profitable in 2023. And I have that EBITDA set at about 21% on revenue. That's still a ways away from the 30% adjusted EBITDA that they're talking about. Now, in 2023, I project them to have $2 billion in free cash flow before taxes and depreciation. Now, let's get into my 2024 numbers, because that's as far as I'm going to go out. And it's very conservative when it comes to growing in revenue. In 2024, I expect for Airbnb to bring in growth revenue of over 25% year over year from 2023, giving them an earnings per share of $1.16 per share. Now, that's on a net income of $705 million. Giving them a forward PE of about 275 times earnings in 2024. Now, this projection for my EBITDA in 2024 for the adjusted EBITDA growth is 31% of revenue, giving them about a free cash flow of about $3.7 billion. I know this sounds bullish. I know it does. I've ran these numbers many of times, and I ran these numbers so much so that I bleed my eyes out a couple days in a row. But I've come up with this data based on being very conservative at that. This is not data where I'm like, oh, we're going to see exponential growth here. We're going to see exponential growth here. We're going to see a lot of savings here. I was very conservative in my expense margins when it came down to Airbnb. So I can't deny the data of what we were seeing when it comes to Airbnb doing a survey. Trivago basically seconding what Airbnb said. And then looking at the TSA checkpoint numbers, all of this is making me understand that Airbnb is actually in a good position, but we have to get more data, right? So until I get that more data, I'm going into nibble mode when it comes to Airbnb. I mean, currently at today's prices that we're seeing Airbnb, we're trading at a 700 times earnings in 2023, according to my projections. Now, if you take my projections in 2024 into consideration, we're trading at about 150 times earnings today, based on what I think was going to happen with Airbnb in 2024. Now, to me, Airbnb has just grown just a little bit expensive. It's a little pricey at these price levels right now. So how can you get return on your investment if it's a little bit pricey? So I'm going into nibble mode at this point in time. And when I say I'm going into nibble mode, I will buy Airbnb occasionally under $180. Now, I would straight up buy between $120 to $144. That's the most. And then below those levels, I'm buying Airbnb at below $120. Now, I've analyzed this stock well into advance a lot by now, right? And I've given you a lot of information on Airbnb, and we have to still figure out what is it going, the market's going to trade it as. Is it going to trade it as a tech stock, a travel stock, or just a recovery play in the meantime? But it does have high growth as a high growth company, expecting it to show up into its returns. Now, for me, when it comes to Airbnb, that's how you're going to make your money. You're going to have to evaluate what is the play for Airbnb. If this thing pulls back to below $120, this is when it takes it off the Richter scale, and you can buy this thing heavily. But if it never trades below 120, matter of fact, if I'm you, I wouldn't even buy Airbnb heavy until it's below $90. If it's below $90 here in the short term, this is a great time to load up on it. But if it never hits that point again, your price point would have to be 120 to get into the stock. And that's even the lowest that this has been since its IPO. So, and all that being said, a lot of things could change. A lot of things can be different. But until we get a better estimation on more quarterly data, you have to believe that Airbnb is trading too expensive at this point in time. So for me, I'm pausing my buying of Airbnb, and that's going to affect my 2021 Savings Challenge. I will be buying more stocks in the 2021 Savings Challenge going forward. And look, man, that's just how it has to be. It's very unfortunate until I get a better reasonable price for Airbnb. So look, hey man, you already know, if you got value out of this content, man, please hit me with that like. And you already know, like I gotta tell you every time, I left you with 2 more videos. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that too. And definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time I drop hot content like this. And it's been your boy Craig, and I'm signing off. And folks, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.